Hello YouTube, Sam here from youtube.com/onlivegamer for the new Boston, and in this tutorial we're going to be talking about updating the server. Now we don't want the user to just be able to put in any server they want and the username and screw up what's going on. And even if they do just put something new in, it's not going to do anything with it because it's already set the username and the password and the server. So what we want to do is for each one of these we want to disable them. So we'll set enabled equal to false, enabled equal to false, and then enabled equal to false on this. So when they click update server or update settings, what we want to do is we want to give them the opportunity to update their settings. So let's go ahead and create a boolean up here. So private is updating as boolean, and let's go ahead and set that equal to false. So, or let's set it equal to, false. So whenever they click it, is updating is going to be equal to not is updating. So basically what this means is it's going to give you the opposite each time you click the button. So when you click the button the first time, is updating is going to be equal to true, and then when you click it again, it's going to be equal to false. So each time this is clicked, it just switches this to the opposite, and because it's boolean, it's easy to do that. So is updating is equal to not is updating, which is basically just flip it. So if is updating, then what do we want to do? Now we could use if is updating equals to true, but all we have to do is type if is updating. So if is updating, so if this is true right here, then what do we want to do? Well, we want to enable the server credentials. So private sub enable updating. So under enable updating, we'll just go ahead and type text FTP pass dot enabled equals true, text FTP server dot enabled equals true, and text FTP user dot enabled equals true. And what we can do, instead of having to create two subs, enable updating and disable updating, we can just do public sub updating server, and we'll have it take a boolean. So by val is updating as boolean. So text FTP fast FTP pass dot enabled is going to be equal to is updating. And now let's go ahead and change this right here to something else. So let's just do is up, because we don't want duplicate variables. So text FTP server dot enabled equals is up, and then once again it's going to be equal to is up. So if they're updating, then what we want to do is type updating server, and for the boolean, let's just go ahead and do true. Then what we want to do is we want to set the credentials. So FTP downloader, well, before we do that, so if it's updating, then it's going to enable those, and then it's going to change the button label. So button update settings dot text equals save settings. Let's make sure this corresponds to what we have, or we'll do save server settings. So it's going to be equal to that. And then what we can do is if not is updating, so if they clicked it again and then we need to do else if. So if they're not updating, so if they clicked it and it lets them update it and it says save server settings and they click it again, what we want to do is save those settings. So we'll type updating server and we will pass false to that, and then we'll set the text button update settings dot text is going to be equal to update server. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to save their settings. So FTP downloader dot username is going to be equal to text FTP user dot text, and then we'll set the password and the server. And then we'll just go ahead and trim that to get rid of any white spaces. So we can go ahead and run this, and when we click update server, it gives us save server settings, and let's just leave it the same, and when we click save server settings, it's going to save those settings. Now what we can also do is we can disable all these buttons whenever that's happening so that they can't use them. So go ahead, put this code in, and then once you've done that, move on to the next tutorial.